connected to books of, say, Trotsky and Gramsci and all those people. He had the English knowledge to actually understand, get the best out of it, and use it in analysis. And this was an important factor. And I feel this that in, is my personal view, that in 1977 he made a mistake in going with Sirdunga and Vikrabahu and formed the NSSP. Actually, with the formation of NSSP, the LSSP lost its entire second leadership. If not for them leaving, Vasu would have been the leader of the party for another 5 years. And the trade union movement, Austin Fernando and Kotalabala would have led the trade union movement in about 5 years' time. And the greatest thinker that we had, that is Kumar David, would have become the greatest thinker after Ekta Abhivardhana. Unfortunately, that was not to be. And even if it was to be, knowing the later what Vasu was up to, I don't know whether he would have taken the LSSP into Hambantota, right? So anyway, Kumar was a very incisive analyst, and he had always tried to move the Sri Lankan socialist movement in a direction which he thought would be the best for it. Of course, it did not always work out to be best, but we are very good, leftists are very good on hindsight. So we can say that although we tried to do, it did not work out. There were problems. Actually, he was the prime mover of the Yahapalne getting together of the opposition to defeat the anti-democratic moves of Mahinda Rajapaksa. And he was under Sobhita Ahmadou. And then also he was pushing us to try and join with and form the NPP. So he was there all the time. And also another thing was that he did not consider Sri Lanka in isolation. He had internationalist views. He realized that the Marxism would, there was communist China and Vietnam doing well in trade and in the economy, but they claimed to be communist. So he was trying to develop some sort of ideas as to what is suitable for Sri Lanka. So in the process, a lot of people got angry with him. People felt that he was not being Marxist enough. Other people felt that he was too Marxist. Some people felt that he was with the LTT. Other people said that he was anti-LTT.
And sometimes to the frustration of a lot of his friends and family too. And embarrassment too. He would love to embarrass you in public. So I'm talking about my husband from a different perspective, not from the political perspective. I hope you understand that. He was generous to a fault. He gave freely, be his time, wisdom, or political rant. Social justice, constitutional reform, equality, right of self-determination wasn't just a passion. It was in his bones, whether it was in the family or outside of the family. A party man since the age of 12. He was collecting political ideologies when a lot of children at the age of 12 were collecting comics. He never feared the infamous vans. In fact, he practically waved at them. My sister and brother-in-law, who lived here in Sri Lanka, would say, "Kumar, please don't come here." And he said, "So what?" His response was, "I'll take my chances." Cowering was not simply in his DNA. A razor-sharp intellectual and a political analysis of highest order, he could dissect a political mess faster than most of us could do our taxes. An atheist who was baptized twice as an infant, once by his mother's side and once by his father's side, he became a total non-believer in any religion. However, he held Buddhist philosophy in very high regard, because why settle for just one path of enlightenment? A regular rant of his was, "I have attained nirvana." A man so diverse but yet so perfect. He wore many hats husband, father, always very duty bound, mentor, teacher, a friend, a colleague, a professor, a boss, but he never was a boss. He treated everybody very equally. Like many other marriages, we have had our differences. We used to fight like crazy, but we'd make up. Making up was the best part of it all. He raised my 2 children from my previous marriage like his own. Never made them feel any different. He was Kumar, as you all know, was a perpetual goofball. He would take the mickey out of everybody. He had a great sense of humor. His friends, I think, and colleagues are living proof of what kind of crazy man he was. Even at 80, his antics remained top tier. We traveled the world together, almost 38 countries, and wherever we went, he was always trying to find out people's living standards, political ideology, what political lessons he could learn from the different countries we traveled to. The elite bored him. The house help, the trash collectors, the underdogs, they were his kind of people. A great lover of animals. Our dog slept on his pillow. His generosity was legendary. Wrote a weekly column to the Sunday newspapers, and he never took a penny from that. And when asked, he said, "You can't put a price tag on opinionated ramblings," though he might sometimes argue otherwise. Kumar often wrote till midnight, tried to make the deadline for the next week's column. He supervised PhD students in China for a whole 2 years for no payment whatsoever except just lodgings that he got over the weekend. He would give whatever knowledge he had without trying to make money out of it. In true form, Kumar made his grand exit just as he lived, without ceremony, without suffering, no drama, no hospitals, no needles. Although his final year was a little bit difficult for him, he had a few health issues, but nothing serious enough to take him away from us. We all miss him very much, and I really thank you all for being here today to honor him, his memory, and his contribution to society.
Kumar was then one of the leaders of the Samsamaja movement and the left movement within the engineering faculty, which was pretty strong at that time. It was perhaps, it's okay. It was perhaps much stronger than many of the other faculties and then universities, where there was actual intellectual discussion, not just following of an idea, a Marxist idea, but some kind of intellectual discussion and dialogue. I think that was a unique experience in the Faculty of Engineering. The people who were with Kumar at that time was Ganeshan, Vijaydoru, and M.W.W. Dharmawada. Those were the real stalwarts who were shepherding this movement. So I quickly joined them because I was already a leftist, and when this group was on, I joined them. Then little by little, others followed. Bahu came up later because he happened to be my roommate. Unfortunately for him, he got converted very soon. Then Chris Rodrigo. Chris Rodrigo was actually not much of a leftist at that time. He was pretty right-oriented. He wanted to be a Jesuit priest. But the continuous dialogue and interchange of ideas finally took him away from his religion and then also from his political affiliation, and then became committed to the left cause once he went to England. Bahu also mainly changed his changed his attitude after going to England. Other time he was there with us all the time, but he was not all that prominent. It was basically Doru, Vijay Doru was the activist, Kumar and Ganeshan were the intellectuals who would be the think tank. So it was a very interesting time for us. Those were the days when young minds are drawn to oppose social injustice and to do what is right for society. And we would not worry about anything else. Sometimes we are ridiculed by saying that there's an old Churchill saying that if you're not a socialist at 20, you have no heart. But if you remain a socialist at 40, you have no head. That is the charge that was being levied against us. But I would like to put it the other way. If you are a socialist, if you are not a socialist at 20, you really don't have a heart. If you remain a socialist 40, you have been corrupted by greed and desires and what you want to build for yourself. So that is the way we see it. And many of us have stuck to this idea. Now on the academic side, Kumar was of course a very brilliant student. He balanced his politics and his studies very well. Some of us failed to do that, particularly Doru and me. But Ganeshan, of course, was okay. But Kumar was particularly able to balance the two sides of the situation. When Kumar passed out, of course, he got a first class, like everyone. But he got the highest marks for electrical engineering up to that time when he passed out. Then after that, of course, people know about his academic life. He went to London and got his PhD and then came back at Imperial College. And then he came back and he worked at the University of Peradeniya first, then at Zimbabwe, at that time Rhodesia, I think, before the split up. And then finally he settled down in Hong Kong. And then he was, of course, retired as Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, and he had numerous publications to his credit. So he was top-notch on the theoretical side. And quite contrary to his political life, he developed various systems for market-oriented trade. It was a new thing at that time because the trading, the electrical trading, was normally electricity generation was a monopoly, and there was no basic trading at that time. But Kumar developed. I mean, there was a massive change in attitude where people were trying to commercialize the power generation sector, and then have a price-based mechanism for trading. And this trading has to be hourly, but sometimes by less period, like half an hour, quarter of an hour. And Kumar developed a system for effectively implementing this. I happened to be at the World Bank at that time, and I invited Kumar to come over and give a presentation of his treatise on this subject. It was well received by the World Bank. So he was top-notch on the academic side. Then talking about Kumar, you cannot ignore his fun side. Kumar was always up to various jokes and pranks. He would pull people's sarangs at very inconvenient hours times. And he was always kept us in laughter and in a joyful mood. I remember once he sent a telegram to his cousin, who was also an electrical engineering student of ours, Premma Papille. And the telegram read, "Don't come tonight, my hubby is there." so everybody was trying to guess who it was, but it was obvious. Kumar, nobody else would do that. Then once when I had a second marriage actually, and then when I introduced her to Kumar, and then after a while when I was got out of the way, Kumar whispered to her here, I'm very sorry you married my friend. He was of course going to give a series of yarns about me, but my wife picked back and said, sorry, it's too late now. So, unfortunately, Kumar was stumped there. So, this was the fun side of Kumar, and it was something that kept us, the comrades going with all his jokes and pranks. Coming back to politics, some things give away with age, and one of them is my throat. Coming back to politics, the first involvement actually was in the 1970s in the coalition government when Doru, Ganeshan and Kumar got appointments. Kumar was appointed as director of CEB where I was working, and Doru and Ganeshan was in the highways department. And they did what they could to try and refashion the existing system. Particularly they championed the cause of technocrats. There was a big fight at that time, which perhaps now looking back, I think it is a bit diversion from the realities, about technocrats and civil servants, and top level positions going always to civil services, and neglecting the electrical, the engineering side of activities. So they actually championed that, and we got number of permanent secretaries appointed, technical people. Then thereafter, of course, with the fall of the coalition government, we all know what happened, where some Samaj movement split up into the new Samaj, NSSP, NLSSP group, and then Kumar was very active there, working with together with Bahu and Vasu, and trying to keep a more purer form of socialism. And then thereafter, of course, it was always opposition politics. And then Kumar's effort at abolishing the presidential form of government was unique. He is, I think, one person who brought the idea of a single issue of abolishing the presidency. And that is one thing that I think the political situation should credit Kumar for. Although they did not work out, he did what he could. Thereafter, of course, at that time he was strongly in support of the minority rights under the national question, and he was a stalwart in that. We all know about it. Then more recently, his support for the NPP, and he was working very hard to make sure that they inform people about the need to get the NPP on board, and all his frequent writings to the island and the Colombo Telegraph was in support of this movement to bring back socialism through the NPP. One thing I have to stress here is that one of Kumar's salient characteristics is that we could always argue and discuss a point with him. I have not always agreed with Kumar's stance in many issues, but I have always discussed and argued, and that was something that we could always have this dialogue. That dialogue was possible because of Kumar's open mind. And that is something that is lacking in most of the politicians, because they get very rigid and they are not able to listen to somebody else's point of view. But that was not Kumar. So this is something that we should take as a lesson. Now, going ahead, what we need to think of is the path ahead. The best way to honor Kumar's lifelong efforts at developing a socialist goal is to carry forward the torch. And in this respect, I want to just mention a few things. One of the first is that we need to learn from past mistakes. Past mistakes are both, in socialism, both global and local. On the global side, we know the failure of the Soviet Union and the collectivized farms, both in China and Russia, did not work out. So that there were feasibility issues that were there, and these were failures. We need to recognize the failures. They come into local issues. Even the 1990-70 movement, when we had a coalition government, I think it was a waste of effort, because we could not bring out the economic revival of the country. We focused on welfareism and achieved some progress in bringing a welfare state, but to share the cake, you must increase the cake. And that is where we failed in our efforts at that time, because there was no economic development program. Nothing, no substantial economic development was done during that time. And this led to the failure of the coalition government and the 1977 upheaval with the right wing coming into power. The other thing that I would like to point out is socialism should be a living philosophy. It should not be treated like a religion where you have dogmas. I mean, Marx did not issue 10 commandments. If Marx was here now, what would he do? This is something that Kumar and I have been asking or discussing about. What would Marx, Lenin and Engels do? Would the response be the same, or would it be different? The situations have changed. The world is changing. The external situation is continuously changing. There is no dual class system anymore. We cannot even identify different classes. There is class mobility. Education has improved. There is a global market that has to be addressed. We have to participate in the global market. So these things must be addressed, and we should not go back to treating socialism as something that is given as a dogma. So one of the key issues therefore at this time is how do we prepare for the local market, for the global market, and how do we make economic progress? Because, as I said before, you have to increase the cake if you want to share it. Welfareism itself, socialist equitable distribution by itself, or looking into rights of various sectors and so on is not sufficient. What is sufficient is to become prominent and become wealthy as a global nation. So the economic situation is something that Kumar and I have discussed many times. And how to address this issue is something that I hope those who carry forward the torch will address. Now, in this context, I would like to spend a minute to refer to the IMF bailout recently. If anybody of you here had the chance to look at the IMF forecast, you see, we are in a terrible debt situation. It is the debt situation that brought us down. 70 years of borrowing, increasing our trade deficits, have ruined the country and brought the last government downfall, right? And what did the IMF do? If you look at the IMF forecast, our external debt is continuing to rise. The forecasts are available. If you go into the central bank website, you can see the projected forecast. The forecasts are expected to rise. IMF medicine has been something that they have been telling every other country for so many years. I have worked with the IMF team together, because I've worked in about 17 countries while working with the World Bank, and we have to follow the IMF procedures and guidelines, and we work very closely with them. But they go on repeating the same thing over and over again. They do not consider the individualistic situations of a country. Their recipe is reduce import tariffs, privatize government corporations, improve efficiency, okay, that's something that anyway has to be done. And that's it. They just repeat the mantra. But I have always discussed with my colleagues, the left colleague, that pointed out that IMF has never brought out a country out of dependent situation. Every country that has developed from a poorer state to a developed state has ignored the IMF recommendations. If you look at the East Asian tigers, they are the clearest examples of people who rejected the IMF recommendations. If you look at Japan, Vietnam, and China, these are the three biggest countries. All the other East Asian, Indonesia, Philippines, they all protected their industries, and they focused on some kind of a development plan, some plan to develop the economic power of the country. It can be by the state, it can be by the private sector. We should not be dogmatic by saying that it's only the state that has to do it. And sometimes they have nationalized institutions, nationalized banks. I think it happened once in Indonesia, to rescue the financial situation. Sometimes they use the private sector. So we should keep all our options open and ensure that economic development is focused by developing a targeted plan. And this is something I hope that the NPP will focus on. And then finally, to sum up, I think I would like to leave with the words that Kumar has spent a lifetime in trying to develop ideals for a better society. So it is our duty now. I don't see much young people here, unfortunately, but whatever we can, and the younger generation must take up the torch and then proceed on the fight and reach our goal. What is it? Our goal is each according to his needs and from each according to his ability. And may that Samsamaj's philosophy live long in Sri Lanka. Thank you.
This Ratnayaka was a classmate of mine. Then I looked around, I see Manek, I see Sikasegram, and then of course, but I can't see anybody else. I hope I have not missed anybody. So when I was asked to say a few words, when I told Vijay that I will be coming for that, he said, "Can you speak a few words?" I said, "Okay, but I do not intend speaking too much on politics or on personal level." But I had known Kumar from the day I joined the engineering faculty. I was 1 year junior to him, and I'd always known him as a NSSP supporter, and I had been a Federal Party supporter, not the current Federal Party, but the old Federal Party, but there's a big difference. And I of course did not like the communists in the university because we organized, at that time the university students, we organized a march against the Chinese embassy when China attacked India from the both science and engineering faculties we went. But we were assaulted there, and that assault was organized by the communist friends of ours from the university, but they were not personally present. Seven of our people were injured and they taken to hospital. Anyway, that's just by the way. But I had always had a respect for Kumar because we could discuss things with him. And the link that I had with him from the university days that continued because I had also been in politics. But the last meeting that I had with him, that's something I like to just bring to your attention. I was at that time in Delhi, New Delhi, 1987, and Kumar came along to see me. I believe he must have come from Hong Kong or London, I'm not sure. He knew that I was there, so he came to see me with Arul Pragasam of the Eros. That is the interesting part of it, Arul Pragasam of the Eros. So while we had dinner at my place, and when I asked Arul Pragasam, Kumar we were discussing so many matters, but I asked him, you are Eros, why are you supporting the LTTE? I can't understand how you as a socialist group, why are you supporting the LTTE? The answer that he gave me was very interesting. I thought I should share with you. He said, LTTE is a fascist organization. So we are not. But if we support the fascist organization, because fascist groups will destroy themselves. So if we support them, we can take over the organization. Is the kind of logic that he told me. So then I asked Kumar, do you accept that? Or he just smiled and he kept quiet. So you see, people think in so many ways. Take over an organization is more important than principles. Because he was prepared to take over an organization that would destroy itself. So that's something. But then unfortunately I couldn't meet I don't think I met Kumar after that, 1987. Or maybe at some meetings I may have bumped into, but that's... Then while he was, of course, on the staff of the university, Peradeniya faculty, I was a visiting lecturer for 10 years. So we used to meet, and sometimes I used to stay over at Professor Turiraja's residence if I go the previous day. And we used to discuss politics. Usually, so many things we used to discuss. So, other than that, I would say he was an intellectual with whom you could have a very keen discussion. And that's one of the reasons why I had always liked him. And just one interesting thing which has really no connection to Kumar, but it connects to his father. His father was the magistrate in Kandy in 1965 when I was working in the irrigation department. I had got posted there. Our office was in the old Kacheri, that is just behind the Dalada Maligava. And our office was on the ground floor of the same building. First floor was the courts. So whenever there were some interesting cases, some of us used to go and listen to what's going on. So there was another engineer. Now I was in the office for the central province under the divisional irrigation engineer. there were 5 other divisions. So there was the engineer in charge of Minipay division. He was appearing in the court, because he had made a complaint that somebody in his project was cutting the canal bund. And then when he went to meet him, when he went to stop him, he has scolded him in filth. So that was the case. So then the lawyer from the other side asked this engineer, how do you know it was filth? Can you give the words? And he told the words in Sinhala. I don't want to repeat it here. How do you know it is filth? It was the next question. He said, the first few words we people from Jaffna learn when we come to the university is filth. Everybody learns filth. The Tamils learn Sinhala filth, and Sinhalese learn Tamil filth. So this is exactly what. So that's what I related this to Kumar later someday, and that was how. So our relationship, I cannot say very much on the political side, except that I respect him, and I'm sorry that he is not there with us anymore. But my thanks to all of you and for inviting me to say a few words. Thank you.
We joined the staff at Peradeniya. In fact, he was in the faculty, but as a student, I didn't have much to do with him because they were all LSSP, and like Vigneswaran, I was a federalist. And in fact, Kumar played a big role, not the only person, in my getting involved with the left. So what really changed me was the Vietnam War. And Kumar used to go regularly for these demonstrations, and I have also been there, not with Kumar, but I was there. And then, of course, the Palestinian question came up after the 67 war. So these are two issues which made a big impact. Now, Kumar organized, we decided to form what was called a Ceylon Society, student society. And there were only about 7 or 8 of us, but he organized. So we wanted to have some interesting topics, and Kumar organized Sivanandan. I don't know, you know Sivanandan, who was in the race relations thing, very active person. So Kumar organized him, and Siva came there, and the topic of his talk was the revolt of the native. And he was very educational. He was very left inclined, but not in any left party. He was very committed to the cause of the black people, and he was a big defender of the black rights movement in Britain. He was very critical of the Labour Party for its kind of inherent racism and so on. So in that way, Kumar was responsible for a lot of introductions. Without Kumar, I might never have come to know all these people. So it was, but Kumar couldn't persuade me to be a Trotskyist. He introduced me to about a dozen books on Trotsky, which are all available in the Holiday Library. I read all of them, but somehow I was more inclined towards China. That was that. And so as a result, most of my conversations with Kumar end up in arguments. And not very unpleasant. He will call me names and do all kinds of things. But, we could. But then Kumar's sense of humor sometimes gets the better of him. Because by taking some point in which he has an interest to extremes, he antagonizes people whom he can make good friends of. It's a bit unfortunate because by doing this, sometimes he loses the point he's trying to make. Now, there are a few occasions where it was unnecessary. He was very hard on Mugabe. He was very hard on Chavez. He even compared Chavez with Mahinda Rajapaksa in one of his columns. Now, I'm not saying that these people are angels, but the point is that if you look in their context, in the context of Zimbabwe and Venezuela, I think these are the best things that could have happened to those countries. In fact, you can scold Mugabe. He's the only African leader who has stood up to imperialism. You can call him anything. He's a dictator of sorts. All that is true. And no, the thing is, there is a place to scold them. I would rather not attack them in public. It's a dangerous thing because you are just adding points to. So these are things which you can't persuade Kumar on. Once he has decided, and one poor target of Kumar was Vasu. I don't approve of what Vasu did. That's a different matter. But then Kumar went to the point of ridiculing him. It's more than political attack. A lot of things. And the names that he called the NSSP, I'm sure Kumar will remember that. He virtually called them the dead left. So this is it. So to get the best of Kumar, you must learn to ignore him on certain things. If you start getting involved in all those things, you won't produce anything productive. So just ignore some of the things that he says and discuss things. And I think his support of the LTT itself was, I don't think, a well-thought thing. He possibly he got involved into some kind of a polemic and he just went on. But to talk to him privately, he will admit that, they are the people. So that's that. I had that very interesting moment with Kumar. I can tell you one incident. Kumar plays pranks. So one day I thought I will do it to him. So he was in the bachelor's quarter. He was having his bath. I went and rang the doorbell. He came down. There was nobody. It happened twice. The third time, I went there, stuck a match inside the doorbell, and went back. So he came down. Now he pulled it out, and then now he was waiting for me to come again. Professor Dr. Mahalingam at that time, in the wet science department, had a freshly written check inside his pocket. And he went to Kumar to call Kumar to dinner. So when Maha rang the bell, Kumar came with a bowl of water and threw it at him. And then Kumar came to dinner and he started scolding me. Then Mahalingam scolded both of us saying, "You buggers are playing like children, and this check, it took me 3 months to get and now I have to go again." So that is life with Kumar.
Thank you for the opportunity given to me to talk few words about Professor Kumar David. I wrote in the book, I am not gifted with the power of language like Professor Kumar David to explain my gratitude for him shaping my professional life. There are two things that comes to my mind when I think of Professor Kumar David. The first time he came into the lecture room in my final year to teach machines, electrical machines. His entry into the room, lecture room, was not of a professor, but like a North Indian cinema actors' entry. In more than one respect, not only his appearance, in the northern cinema world, when the hero appears, he fights the villains who are with all sorts of weapons. He comes empty-handed and fights them and wins it. The same way he entered into the lecture room without any piece of paper and a file, which is a hallmark of most of the lecturers in the engineering faculty. He came and said, "We will review what you have studied in machine last year. The previous year we have studied machines for 1 year. We wrote the exam, passed the exam, and in fact I should have done extremely well because that year I got a first class in the electrical engineering. However, I don't think I understood synchronous and asynchronous machines. It was like what Swami Vivekananda said about what is not education. He said, education is not the amount of information puts in your mind and runs a riot undigested all your life. That's how the machines, which I learned in the third year, still undigested in my mind. So when he said we will revise, go through what we studied in third year, I was very happy. At the end of 1 hour, his thinking, his way of explaining so good, even a fool like me could understand it, and what was not digested for 1 year, in 1 hour it got digested. I understood. That was his power of teaching. Similarly, I have an incident that's the first day, and a similar incident in the last day of as a student of his. I got remembered of that when few weeks or a month ago, the power system failure was made a monkey business by wrong choice of words by the Honorable Minister of Power and Energy, and become a ridicule subject. Grid stability was his favorite subject, what he taught us, Professor Kumar David. And in the last exam, he put out the question. Normally, you get questions in our exam. I don't mean disrespect to any one of my lecturers, but most of the time, if you go through the past papers of Imperial College or King's College and do those sums, sure you will get some of them in our exam. But this was not so in Kumar David's final paper. He put a question in the final exam. It was 1.5 pages long, the question. That was the very first question in the exam. I looked at it. In 30 minutes you have to answer. It will take a lot of time to even understand going through 1.5 pages. I skipped it. I want to get full marks. I was under severe pressure because I didn't expect to get a first class in the third year, but a lot of people expected me to get a first class in the final year. That pressure was on me. And the previous day I have messed up my paper in communication due to bad news I read in the papers. I was so upset because it was the Tamil International Conference in Jaffna. Police went on havoc. Some of the people I knew into trouble. So I had to get full marks, so I was not willing to risk it. So I did all the other questions, but finally I have to get an answer. I wanted a question which has sums, not essay. Then I decided to go back to the first question. It took 20 minutes to understand the question. And it took only 5 minutes to write the answer. Because he wanted to know whether you understand the basic principle of power system stability. It was his own question, not from anywhere else. And you had to understand the principle that in the power systems, frequency related to the balance of real power, voltage is related to the balance of reactive power. He wanted to know whether you understand that one. Okay? And I see one of the CEB statement that was put when there was an imbalance of paper, they talk about voltage. I couldn't understand. Probably they have not, that's a cost is, the cause is because Kumar was not there in the engineering faculty where they studied. And the thing is, I get out of the exam hall. I was the first to get out of the exam hall. I don't know if it's a coincidence or intentional. Kumar comes and asks me, like a small kid, how was the first question? I couldn't believe such a humbleness to come and ask a student how we were supposed to, he was supposed to test us, but he is asking me how was the first question. That was his intellectual caliber. The thing that he taught me, power system engineering, especially stability, was his thing. But I did not practice power system engineering in my profession. Thanks to the electricity board, despite the fact of the people who came out of the faculty, engineering faculty, electrical engineering at the time, I was the only one who had class. But CEB didn't write my name. You know why it is. So I did not work. Fortunately or unfortunately, I got into IT industry. But whether what he taught me was useful for me in the profession, if I look at this, what he taught in the power system stability, as a power system stability, then you might say it is not used. But if you abstract it a little more than that, beyond the power system stability, he taught me a lesson. The lesson was, when you develop system or change system, which consists of several components, your challenge is making the system more reliable than the reliability of the individual components. That is what power system stability is all about. The generators might fail, the lines may fail, but the supply to the consumer should be kept. The power system stability should be reliable. That is what he taught. In a system development or system enhancement, make sure the reliability of the system is much more than that of the individual component. If I take that as the principle I learned, then it was useful for every discipline I studied. I studied accounting. When I see accounting, I see the same principle applied and I was able to understand very quickly. I studied law, especially the law of evidence, where you have to establish the facts reliably. You use witnesses to establish the fact. So, ensuring the reliability of the witnesses by cross-examination is essential to reliability of the total justice system in establishing the facts. It was very useful for me when we have I was in the Syntec Law Committee, and when we have to make sure the computer evidence has the reliability factor when it was included as an evidence in the court cases. And in fact, I have once had to contradict most respectful Professor C.L.V. Jayatilaka, who taught me thermodynamics in the year 2. He said, when I participated in a workshop, he said in his address, he was the moderator, and his address, he said, except medical faculty, all the other faculties in the universities does not prepare the students for job, only medical faculty. I had to contradict it. I told him, if we are looking at engineering as maintenance of something that is already created, what you say is true. But if we are looking at engineering as creating something new, or if we are enhancing the existing one, what you taught was very useful in my job. So that is what Professor David Kumar, when he taught power system engineering stability, really taught me, which was used. And it is very useful in the IT industry I am in. The reliability factor in the IT industry is the worst one, not only in Sri Lanka, throughout the world. And the sad fact is, the reliability factor in other engineering keeps on increasing, but in IT it keeps on decreasing. 50 years ago, when the manufacturer tells this will work like this, like IBM, when if they put up a document and say this is how it will work exactly. Today, when Microsoft or Google put out the document, it won't work that way. Even the components. And if you look at the system altogether, it is still worse. People talk about bond scam losses, runs into billions. But in my 52 years experience in the IT industry, amount of money that is lost in the government sector due to bad IT system procurement is several fold more than the bond scam. They don't work. All right? That, in fact, 3 weeks ago, Deputy Minister of Digital Economics said, in 5 years they will do great wonders. But I told him, I have heard this for the last 20 years. And I see what your Syntec people say. I think it won't change. I don't know, I will live till that long, but if I can tell you, even if I don't long, it will stay in the same way, if not worse. Because the fact that the people in the IT industry do not understand system reliability, most important factor, which, thankful to Professor Kumar David, even though in power system engineering, he taught about that is applicable, and I strictly follow. And I have the name in the industry, whatever the system I produce may not be fancy, but it will be reliable, which is the most important factor from an engineering perspective. Now, it also, I was not in politics till about 2018. I got involved in politics to a limited distance. And even in governance system, when we see the governance system, even in the governance system, that principle was very applicable. even if a rogue like, if the proper governance system is in place, even the rogue like, I don't want to mention their names, you know who they are. The system should work. I did a research in the internet, and I found in 1750, a jurist called Montaigne from France, he evolved the system to ensure reliability of the governance system. Unfortunately, most of the people in politics do not follow that one. I am afraid, I didn't have contacts with Kumar David. Everybody says the whole cause of this problem in this country of governance is only started in 1978, and that is due to presidential system. But in 1975, what that Montaigne said is followed by only 2 countries in the world, and you can see they are very powerful, powerful people. The largest big country like US, where you can see even the president cannot do lot of bad things. All right? The other country is Switzerland. And he said that system where the components failure will not cause component system. I don't want to go into the details, but that principle was underlined there. So every field I went, what Kumar David taught me in terms of power system engineering principles was very applicable. I had some sort of interaction in politics with Professor Kumar David as well. As Sardaka said, I don't know, I heard the way differently from Winston Churchill. If we are not communist before 20, you don't have a heart. And if you are a communist after 40, you don't have a brain. I can't say that very publicly with Vijay Kumar and Kumar David, but at least the first part, I also was a communist when I was 20, and I had a very interesting or fearful event when in the 1971, when the bomb went off of March Hall and the army walked into the university, I had with me 2 books which I have borrowed from the library. The 2 books were, one was by book titled Guerrilla Warfare by Che Guevara. Other book was titled again Guerrilla Warfare by co-authored by Che Guevara and Mao Zedong. So I was really scared to go and return those books at that time when the army was inside the campus. But I took the books from other people. I took about 10 books. At the lunchtime I go and return, so they will not have the time to look at the books I am returning. So because of that, I used to have discussion with Kumar David on politics. But I used to differ with him. I told him, in Sri Lanka, more than class contradiction, there was a racial contradiction. If you don't solve the racial contradiction, you cannot solve the class contradiction. So, but anyway, at some point in time, he managed to convince me and want me to go to join LSSP. But lack of time, I can't this thing. But for some reason, I did not join LSSP. I went and met Hector Vivarna, got the forms and everything. But I wish I had contacts with him so that I would have improved my political knowledge with discussion with Kumar David. I missed that opportunity. But all in all, in summary, the amount of things I learned from him, I did not think I could have done that without him. Thank you for the time.
First of all, I like to thank Vijay Kumar, Rajan and Marshall inviting me here to say a few words about Kumar. But same time, I like to speak in Sinhala because I am much more comfortable. I hope most of the friends here can understand Sinhala. මිත්‍රවරුනි, දැන් මෙතන උදේවරුවේ සාකච්ඡාව ගියේ කුමාර් ඩේවිඩ්ගේ අධ්‍යාපන ඔහුගේ වෘත්ති ඉංජිනේරු වෘත්තිය හා දේශපාලනය. දැන් මම කුමාර් ඩේවිඩ්ගේ විශ්වවිද්‍යාලය ඉංජිනේරු දේශපාලනට සම්බන්ධ කෙනෙක් නෙමෙයි. මම කුමාර් අඳුනගන්නේ දේශපාලන කෙනෙක් හැටියට. නමුත් මම කුමාර් අඳුන ගැනීමේ අවධි දෙකක් තියෙනවා. ඊටම කෙටියෙන් කුමාර් මම එක ගමේ අය. තිබිරිගස්සය ජාවත්තේ. අපේ විජේ කුමාර් ස්පෙටෝඩියලේ ඉන්නේ කී කාලේ. නෝ yeah right ස්පෙටෝඩියලේ ඉන්නේ මම එනවා හම්බ වෙන්න සමහර දවස්වලට. anyway ඉතින් අපි මම 60 ගණන් වල 60 මුල් කාලේ අපි මම ජාවත්ත පාසලට ගියේ. එතන හන්දියේ තියෙන පස්සේ මම එකෙන් අයින් වෙලා වෙන පාසලකට ගියා කියන කතාවක්. අපි ඉවර වෙලා අපි සොෆ්ට්බෝල් අපි එක ඒවා ෆුට්බෝල් ගහනවා ඔයක එල්ලේ ගහනවා ඔයක දේවල් කරනවා. අපේ බෝලේ යනවා අල්ලපු වත්තට. ඒ බැලුවහම ඉන්නවා ලේඩි කෙනෙක් අපිත් එක්ක හරි තරහයි. සමහරවිට බෝලේ දෙන්නේ නැහැ අපිට. කියනවා I can't find the ball. You better find another ball. ඉතින් ඊට පස්සේ ඉඳලා හිටලා අපි හැමදාම වගේ අපි සෙල්ලම් කරනවා. ඉතින් එතන අපිට පොඩි ගැටුමක් තියෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ ලස්සන කොළු ගැටියෙක් ඉන්නවා. අපි දැක්කා. ඒ තමයි කුමාර් දේවි. අර අපිට සැර කරන කාන්තාව තමයි කුමාරගේ අම්මා. ඒ මොකද අපි ඊටම ඩවුන් ට්‍රොඩන් අපි පහළ පන්තියේ අය කම්කරු. ඒ මොකද අපි එතන ජාවත්ත සම සමාජ කාර්යාලයේ වටේ තමයි අපේ ජීවිතේ. තිමිරිගස්සයේ දැන් මේ කුමාරලා ටිකක් upper middle class or middle class whatever the way you call. ඉතින් එහෙම ගැටුමකුත් තිබුණා. කුමාර් ඉතින් හරි ෆ්‍රෙන්ඩ්ලි අපිත් එක්ක. කුමාර්ගේ අපි දකින්නේ නැහැ. කුමාර් දකින්නේ අපි මාස 3-4කට සැරයක්. පසුව තමයි කුමාරයි දේශපාලන වශයෙන් වික්‍රම බාහු මූලික වශයෙන් හරහා ලාල් විජේනායක ලහරහා අඳුරාගෙන දේශපාලන මිත්‍රෙක් බවට පත් වුණේ. එතකොට මම කතා කරන්න හදන්නේ මේ දෙවෙනි කොටස ගැන. කුමාරගේ මුල් කාලේ ඉඳලා කුමාරගේ තිබුණා අපි ආශ්‍රය කරපු අපේ ඒ පරම්පරාවේ අතර පොඩක් කැපී පෙනෙන වෙනසක්. එයා හරි බෝල්ඩ් හරිම කෙලින් කතා කරන්නේ. එයා ඕනම මතවාදයකට අදහසකට හරස්ව පෙනී හිටින්නට විශේෂ හැකියාවක් තිබිච්ච කෙනෙක්. දැන් මම කරුණු දෙකක් තුනක් කියන්නම් පුංචි වෙලාවක් සීමිත වෙලාව තුල. එකක් තමයි දැන් අපි වාම සමාජ වල ඊට කලින් මම පොඩ්ඩක් කියන්න ඕනේ විජේ කුමාර් මෙන්ෂන් කරා මේ අපි වාම සමාජය හදලා සමාජ පක්ෂ දෙකඩ උනේ නැත්තම් අද වෙනත් තත්වයක් තියෙන්නේ. මොකද ඒක සෙකන්ඩ් ලේයර් එක සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම ඉවත් වුණා කියලා සමාජ පක්ෂේ හිටපු සටන්කාමී බුද්ධිමත් ලේයර් එක. ඒකේ ඇත්තක් තියෙනවා. නමුත් ඒකට මම පොඩි එකතු කිරීමක් කරන්නම්. දැන් අපි සමාජ පක්ෂය ඇතුලේ ඒ වාදේ ගෙනියනකොට අපි ටිකක් පටු සීමාවක තමයි ගෙනිච්චේ. දැන් මට පස්ස ඇරලා බලුවම් පේන්නේ. ඒ පටු සීමාව තමයි සබහදු විරෝධය. not beyond that. ඉතින් ඒක ටිකක් පොපියුලර් මේ තත්වයක් තමයි පක්ෂය ඇතුලේ තිබුණේ. හැමදාම යූයි පෙරලා සත්‍ය පහලලා චන්ද්‍රසේනලා නොයෙකුත් කම්කරු නායකයෝ අපි දිනා ගන්නවා. මම ඉතින් ප්‍රධාන මොකද බාහුවිතියේ නුවර සුමන සිරිලා නුවර මම තමයි කොළඹ ප්‍රධාන මෙනිය හැටියට හිටියේ. ඉතින් අපි ඊට එහා ගිය දේශපාලනයට තල්ලු වුණා පසුව. නමුත් අපේ ඔය අකිපු ඒ කාලේ තිබුණේ සභාග විරෝධය. නමුත් ඉතින් මේක මම හිතනවා එකක් සම සමාජ පක්ෂය ටික ඉක්මන් වුණා වැඩි අපි වෙලක. මාවයි වික්‍රම භාවි සුමන සිරිය තමයි ඉස්සෙල්ලම නිරපුවේ 73 මම මතක විදියට. ඒ නිරපීමත් එක්ක ඉතින් අපිව තල්ලුණා යම් තැනකට. ඉතින් දැන් අපිට ඉතිහාසයේ විදිහටම කතා කරන්න වෙලාවක් නැහැ. ඒ නිසා යම් ඇත්තක් තියෙනවා. නමුත් ඒකත් එක්ක ප්‍රශ්න කිහිපයක් තියෙනවා. දැන් කුමාගේ විශේෂත්වය අපි දැක්කේ ජේ.ආර්. ජයවර්ධනගේ ආණ්ඩුවේ මහවැලිය ව්‍යාපාරේ මහවැලි ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එක ආරම්භ කරපු වෙලාවේ. කුමා ඒක ස්ටඩි කළා කුමා විශාල විවරණයක් කරා. ඇත්තට ගාමිණී දිසානායක මිනිස්ටර් of මහවැලි එයා ආරාධනා කරා මේ කන්සල්ටන්ට් කෙනෙක් හැටෙන්න කියලා කුමා කරනවා. I am not going to do that. Right? කුමා මහවැලි ගැන මම හිතන්නේ රන්දෙලිගල අරවමේව පස්සේ ආවේ. කුමාගේ මේන් කන්සන්ට්‍රේෂන් එක තිබුණේ වික්ටෝරියා එක ගැන. තාම වළංගු අදටත් වළංගු. කරුණු ගණනාවක් කුමා ඉදිරිපත් කරා. මම කියන්නේ ලංකාවේ පළවෙනි වතාවට ජේ.ආර්.ලගේ ඒ ආණ්ඩුවේ ඒ අති දැවැන්ත ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එක පබ්ලික්ලි දත්ත සංඛ්‍යාලේඛන කරුණු සහිතව නිකන් දේශපාලන විචනයක් නෙමෙයි. ඒක ඒ ව්‍යාපෘතිය ගැනම කරපු විචනයක් හැටියට මම හිතනවා කුමාර ඩේවිඩ්ගේ නම ඉතිහාසයේ තව අවුරුදු ගණනාවක් තිස්සේම පවතින්න පුළුවන් කියලා. ඊළඟ කාරණේ මම කාරණා තුනක් තමයි කියන්නේ. ඊළඟ කාරණේ තමයි 80 වැඩවර්ජනය. 80 වැඩවර්ජනය NSSP එක තමයි ඒකේ ප්‍රධාන ක්‍රියාකාරී ඩයිනමෝ එක උනේ. පඬිත බැටි වීරකෝන් මංගල මුණසිංහ සන්මුගදාසන් බාලතම්පෝ ඒ කට්ටිය තමයි උත්සම්ති ව්‍යාපාරේ නායකයෙක් හැටියට මම ඒ කාලේ සෑහෙන තරුණයි. මමත් 80 ජූලි මාසේ 12 වෙනිදා මට මතක විදිහට වැඩවර්ජන තීන්දුව ගත්තේ. අපි 31 දෙනෙක් හිටියා උත්සම්ති නායකයෝ. එක එක්කෙනෙක් මම හිතන්නේ මාත් එක්ක ජීවිතුන් අතරින් තව එක්කෙනයි. ඒ තීන්දුවට සහභාගී වෙච්ච 80 වැඩවර්ජනය. ඒ 80 වැඩවර්ජනයේ තීන්දුව අපි අරගෙන අපි ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනකොට අහම්බෙන් මමයි කුසල් පෙරරයි මෝටර් බයිසිකල් එකක අපි යනවා මේ වතුකරේ ජනතාව දැනුවත් කරන්න වැඩවර්ජනය ගැන. අපි යනකොට ජාවත් හන්දියේ අපේ ගේ ඉතන ළඟනේ යනකොට කුමා හම්බ වුණා. කුමා කිව්වා මේ දන්නද කුමාගේ ඉතින් හරි සාකැස්ටික් කතාව හරිම කුණුහරුප නැති කතාවක් නෑනේ. without කුණුහරුප there is no discussion with Kumar. Right? බලගේ පකේ ස්ට්‍රයික් එක. එමෙයි පටන් ගත්තේ. That he was a member of the central committee of the NSSP. මම මොකක්ද ඔය කියන්නේ? මචං සිරිතුංග බල තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ වැඩවර්ජනයක් සාර්ථක කරන්න බෑ ලිපිකරුවෝ කීප දෙනෙක් ස්ට්‍රයික් කරා කියලා. ඔගොල්ලෝ ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන් ජීසස් එක කන්සන්ට්‍රේට් කරලා ජීසස් එකේ බලය උඩ ස්ට්‍රයික් එකකට තල්ලු වෙලා තියෙනවා ඔයගොල්ලෝ. එයා කිව්වා මේ අද එදා තියෙන තත්ත්ව තුළ අඩුතරමේ ප්‍රචාරක මාධ්‍ය රූපවාහිනී දෙක ඉලෙක්ට්‍රිසිටි බෝඩ් එක දැන් lot of talks අපි උදේ වරුවේ තිබුණ ඉලෙක්ට්‍රිසිටි බෝඩ් එක ගැන මංකි ඩ්‍රාමා එක ගැන right එතකොට එයා කිව්වා ඉලෙක්ට්‍රිසිටි බෝඩ් එක වගේ ප්‍රධාන සර්විස් ආයතන තුල මොනවද කරන්න පුළුවන් අනිත් එක CTB and other places කොහොම මේක සීනියක් ජේ.ආර්. ජයවර්ධන මේක චප්ප කරනවා කුඩු පට්ටම් කරනවා සිරිතුංග මම දන්නවා ඔයා ප්‍රධාන කෙනෙක් මේකේ මේ වැඩවලට තීන්දුවේ නමුත් මේක අසාර්ථක වෙනවා. ලොකු පරාජයකට යනවා. ඉතින් කුමාරගේ තාම දැඩි ලෙස විහිළුත් සමග ඉදිරිපත් කරපු අදහස ඇත්තට ආපසු බලනකොට මම වැඩවර්ජනය ගැන පොතක් ලිව්වා. සියලු දත්තයන් සියලු දේවල් ඇතුළත් කරලා මම හිතනවා ඇත්තට 80 වැඩවර්ජනයේදී අපි ගත තීන්දුව නිවැරදි නැහැ කියලා. හේතු දෙකක්. එකක් තමයි අපිට තිබුණ වැඩවර්ජන තීන්දුව සමස්ත මහ වැඩවර්ජනයකට යනවා වෙනුවට අපිට තිබුණ සංකේත වැඩවර්ජනයට ගිහිල්ලා අපේ ස්ට්‍රෙන්ත් එක බලන්න. අපේ වීක්නසස් හඳුනා ගන්න. අපිට එහෙම ස්ට්‍රැටජි එකක් තිබුණේ නැහැ. අපි කෙලින්ම සමස්ත මහ වැඩවර්ජනයකට තීන්දුව කරා. ඒක තමයි මම හිතන්නේ බරපතලම පාඩම. දැන් ඒ පාඩම ආපහු රිවර්ස් කරන්න බෑ. ඒ තරමට ලොකු විනාශයක් ගන්නවක් වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ වැඩවර්ජනය ගැන කාරණා කීපයක් තියෙනවා කියන්න. කෙටි වෙලාව නිසා මම තව කාරණා දෙකයි කියන්නේ. ඊළඟ කාරණේ තමයි කුමා විශේෂිත පුද්ගලයෙක්. මේ ඉලෙක්ෂන් එක ගැන පොඩ්ඩක් කියමු අන්තිමට පුළුවන් වෙලාවක් තිබුණොත් කුමා 90 ගණන් වල චීනය ඩෙන් සියාපින්ගෙන් පස්සේ ටර්න් එක ගත්තට පස්සේ මාකට් ඉකොනොමි එකට කුමා ආරම්භ කරා සාකච්ඡාවක්. කුමා කිව්වා මේ චීනය ලෝකේ පළවෙනි හෝ දෙවෙනි ආර්ථිකය බවට පත් වෙන්න ඉඩ තියෙනවා මේ ගමන ගියොත් සාර්ථක වුණොත්. එයාගේ ප්‍රෙඩික්ෂන් එක විය හැකියි. දැන් අපිත් එක්ක හිටියා තව ඒ විතර නෙමෙයි කුමා කිව්වා I am not economics. I am in a engineering field. නමුත් මේක අපි සාකච්ඡා කරන්න ඕනේ මේක ලෝක දේශපාලනයේ බරපතල වෙනසක් ඇති කරන්න පුළුවන් ක්‍රියාදාමයක් වෙනවා චීනයේ මේ ටර්න් එක. මේක සාර්ථක වුණොත් මොකක්ද ඇති වෙන තත්ත්වය කියන කාරණාවල් ගැන. දැන් අපි ළඟ හිටිය ඉකොනොමිස්ට් කෙනෙක්. ඒ තමයි ක්‍රිස් රොඩ්රිගෝ. Chris Rodriguez recently died about 1 year ago in California. Chris Rodriguez චීන ගැන මේ කුමාගේ ඉනිෂියේටිව් එකත් එක්ක ක්‍රිස් ආටිකල් එකක් දෙකක් ලිව්වා. නමුත් ඒ ආටිකල්ස් වල ක්‍රිස් එච්චර පොසිෂන් එකක් ගත්තේ නැහැ. එයා කිව්වා මේක වෙන්නත් පුළුවන් නොවෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. නමුත් කුමා very firm. කුමා කියන්නේ මේ ගමන චීන යනවා. මේ very early stages. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ කුමාට තිබුණා පෙරදැකීමේ මම කියන්නේ අපි කියනවා ඩයලෙක්ටික්ස් කියලා. ඒ ඩයලෙක්ටිකල් මෙතඩ් එක හැම වෙලාවෙම පාවිච්චි කරන්න උත්සාහ කරන කෙනෙක් එයා. ඒක තමයි එයාගේ විශේෂත්වය. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා මම හිතනවා කුමා මේ රටේ වමේ ව්‍යාපාරයට කරලා තියෙන එකතු කිරීම මම හිතනවා තව බොහෝ කලක් පවතින්න පුළුවන්. අනිත් කාරණාව තමයි කුමා ජාතික ප්‍රශ්නය ගැන කුමාගේ තිබිච්ච තාම එඩිටර් ස්ථාවරය. කුමයි මායි 1975 මට මතක විදියට යාපනයේ ගිය අපි යාපනයේ දේශපාලන සම්බන්ධකම් දිනා ගන්න අපි ජීසස් නායකයා පොන්නම්බල මේ ගජේන්ද්‍ර කුමාර පොන්නංගල නෙවෙයි වෙන පොන්නම්බල වෙන්නේ මේ යාම හිතේ තාම ජීවිතුන් අතර ඉන්න මේ ඇලිටිකල් මාවතේ ටිකක් හොඳට සෑහෙන වයසයි 90 ගාණක් විතර වෙනවා. ඒ ඇතුළු අපි අන්නමලේ නොයෙකුත් අපි දිනා ගන්නට අපි කටයුතු කරා. ඉතින් කුමාගේ තිබිච්ච මේ ගැඹුරු අධ්‍යයනය ජාතික ප්‍රශ්නය ගැන කිසි කෙනෙකුට අභියෝග කරන්න පුළුවන් කමක් තිබුණේ නැති තරම් ගිය. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා මම කතාව මම මෙතනින් අවසන් කරනවා. කුමා මේ රටේ වමේ ව්‍යාපාරයට කරලා තියෙන අන්තිම කාලේ මම කියන්නේ එයා උත්සාහ කරා සම සමාජ කණ්ඩායම එකතු කරන්න. ඒ විතරක් නෙමෙයි මන් ළඟ තියෙනවා මේ ඔබ තමන්වහන්සේලා අතර තියෙන තරුණ උගතුන්ගේ දේශපාලනය කියන පොත. ඒ පොතේ ඔරිජිනල් එක. මීට අවුරුදු 5කට ඉස්සෙල්ලා මට මතකයි 5කට නැත්නම් 6 ඉස්සෙල්ලා කුමා ආවා මාව හම්බ වෙන්න. කුමා කිව්වා සිරි මට පුළුවන් ද තරුණ උගතින්ගේ දේශපාලනයේ පොතක් ඔයා ළඟ තමයි තියෙන්නේ වෙන කාලඟවත් නෑ මේවා තියෙනවා නම් කියලා. මම එයාට දුන්නා එකක්. මම ළඟ මගේ ලයිබ්‍රරියේ මේ 4-5 තවමත් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේක වැදගත් කරුණු කීපයක් තියෙනවා. නමුත් මේක ලියලා තියෙන්නේ මොකද සමග පෙරමුණු ආණ්ඩු සංකල්පයේ ඇතුලේ ඉඳලා. ඒක තමයි මේකේ තියෙන එක්තරා ප්‍රශ්නයක්. තවදත් කරුණු තියෙනවා කොහොමද බුද්ධිමතුන් දේශපාලනයට ඇතුලේ මොකද්ද තියෙන කන්ට්‍රීස් සුළු ධනෙශ්වරය හා කම්කරුපන්ති අතර සම්බන්ධතාවය. නමුත් මේක සභාගවාදී දේශපාලන ෆ්‍රේම් එක ඇතුලේ ඉඳලා තමයි මේක ලියලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා මේකේ යම් ගැටලු තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා මිත්‍රවරුනි මම හිතනවා කුමාර් ඩේවිඩ් ඉතාම වැදගත් කාර්යභාරයක් කරේ 75 නැත්නම් 76 මම ජේ.ආර්. ජයවර්ධනගේ අතුරු මැතිවරණේ බයි ඉලෙක්ෂන් එක කන්ටෙස්ට් කරනකොට අපි වාම කණ්ඩායමේ ඉතා සුළු පිරිසක් මම හිතුවා කුමාර් ඩේවිඩ් තමයි මේකට දාන්න ඕන කියලා. මිඩල් ක්ලාස් එකේ තරුණයෙක් බුද්ධිමතෙක් මම මේ කම්කරු පන්තියේ සාමාන්‍ය ළංගම කම්කරුවෙක් මම. නමුත් ඒගොල්ලෝ ඔක්කොම මාව තල්ලු කරා ඒකට කුමාර් ඩේවිඩ් became election agent of Sweden. ඒ කාලේ election agent කෙනෙක් පත් කරන්න ඕනේ. Without that you can't contest. So my election agent was Kumar. එයාගේ කාර් එකේ තමයි අපි ගියේ නොමිනේෂන් දාන්න දීලා අපි කට්ටිය හොඳටම ගුටි කෑවා. ජේ.ආර්.ගේ කට්ටිය සමසමාජිකාරයෝ බර්නාඩ්ලා සට්නෙන් පලා ගියා. බර්නාඩ් සොයිසලා ගියේ හැපැත්තේ අපි. බර්නාඩ් සොයිසලා ඒගොල්ලෝ පලා ගියා සට්නෙන්. ජේ.ආර්.ලා හිතුවේ අපි සමසමාජ පක්ෂය මේ වෙන විදිහකට සමසමාජ අපේක්ෂකෙක් දාලා තියනවා කියලා. උදාහරණයක් ජේ.ආර්. මාත් එක කවුන්ටිං වෙලාවේ මම හැවුවා මේ ඔයා ඡන්ද කීයක් ගන්නවද මම ඡන්ද 7-800,000ක් what nonsense. ඔයා දැන් මේ බර්නාඩ්නේ. ඔයාට ඡන්ද 10,000ක් 15,000ක් හම්බ වෙනවා කියලා. ඔයාට ඩමි කැන්ඩිඩේට් ඔෆ් බර්නාඩ් කියලා තමයි ජේ.ආර්. කිව්වේ. ඉතින් අපිට හොඳට ගැහුවා කුමාර් ඩේවිඩ් ගුටි කෑවා. කුමාර් ඩේවිඩ් ගුටි කාලා අම්මගෙනුත් බැලුම් හාලා තමයි අපි එදා වැඩේ ඉවරනේ. බොහොම ස්තුතියි.
Tell the date of the strike. So after resisting somehow or other, we were forced to go to strike, and JR took advantage of that to completely smash the trade union movement. Other thing, he felt that this one was a realist. He recognized that if you are going to strike, you must get the support of just getting the clerical workers not enough. You must get all the important sections of the economy getting in, other you can't have a strike, and he was proved to be correct. And in hindsight, he believes that we should have a token strike and then see how our strength was before we tried to have a general strike. Kumar also recognized the importance of China in the economy long before anybody else did. In 1990, he said that China will be a leading economy in this country and we should be studying it. There were lots of arguments in the left about it because we believe that China was going away from the socialist line. But what he said, no, we must see what can be done while being socialist, whether you can improve your economy the Chinese method. So he really wanted to study, and he has made many contributions in that. And he had this foresight. He could see things happening long before other people could see it, and this was because he used the dialectical method, the Marxist method of analyzing problems. And he also, when they went to Jaffna and all, he realized he was realistic. You can't be really, when he was trying to campaign for the NSSP in Jaffna, there's a limit to what you can gain there. Finally, he mentioned about his great adventure fighting J.R. Jayawardena. Actually, you were dismissed because you contested J.R. Jayawardena for the LSSP. That was the reason. You were the first person to be dismissed. After Vikrababu, and Kumar was not in that list.
No.
Kumar's stepfather. Yeah. He was not dismissed, but he was dismissed. So he said that they were not really. I mentioned that they had remained. It would have ended the party, but he says that they were forced out. That's what he mentioned. And J.R. really believed that although he contested, I can remember how he had to oppose, that people were mad in the LSSP that he contested, but J.R. thought that he was a puppet put forward by the NSSP to get the votes, and well, he would get Bernard's votes. I don't know how many votes do you get finally.
We get the 385.
So he thought he'll get Bernard's votes. That's the summary of what he said. I hope I'm okay. Yeah, okay. Now we have the next speaker will be our good friend Nirmal Devasiri. Can I call upon Nirmal, please?
For a very long time, I had the chance of associating with him last 25 years or so, in different capacities. And I think when he was, this part of the Vasudeva's group, so that I also took part in, founding after 1994. And so I have, I completely agree with Comrade Siritunga about, what he said about the Kumar's ability to assess things, even though he had different position. In politics you have to take stands, but at the same time, I think most of the people, I think this is the difference between Vikram Bahu and Kumar. So I think he would take a stand, but he keep a kind of critical distance with the stand that he himself maybe. So that's exactly what happened in the case of 1980 general strike. And I think that I have heard the same story about the strike by the attitude that the Bala Kampo had on the strike. He said that I have heard that he said in Sinhala, Karapalla Karala Pavadi Palla, that kind of attitude. And so then, so I think I understood. I came to know about the Kumar as a very bright young intellectual of the left politics in Sri Lanka in the late 1960s and 70s. And so I will come to that point later on. And also, so when I had my own, not a very continuous association, but so what I understood him as the most creative, the person with most creative use of dirty words, right? The Kunuharpa. I haven't seen a person who can use these words that kind of, in a critical, in a very creative manner, right? So I think, that's probably that's the best way to express certain views, right? So that's I mean, I remember, the last long lecture that I was listening to by him was about quantum mechanics, quantum physics. So, I think it was somewhere in this. There's a place in Valikadavat Road. There's Colombo School of Politics or something like. The Shiral Laktila gang. So they organized, and so he delivered a long lecture. And he mixed it with his own usual the way of using Kunuharapa, and that's he was capable of delivering these highly technical subjects in a creative manner, right? But what I am going to speak today is not about my personal association with him, but actually something about the topic of this very important pamphlet. And for the last 10-15 years or so, I'm quite interested in, as a student of history and also as a student of the history of left movement in Sri Lanka, So I'm quite interested in the role that intellectuals play, not only in left politics but also in politics in general. So I think, so usually the Marxist politics has a kind of tendency, the orthodox Marxist politics even in Sri Lanka has a tendency to underestimate the role of intellectuals. Although it's quite ironical that, although the left movement in Sri Lanka mostly a work of, intellectuals. It's a kind of intellectual movement, but they thought that the class, the proletariat class base is much more important than the role of intellectuals. Right? I think, in my view, so when we look back the historical evolution of the left movement and the other the parallel political developments, so you understand how important the role of intellectuals. And so I think it's Comrade Siritunga is quite right that the expulsion of the group associated with later became part of this NSSP from LSSP. It's a very important turning point, and I think that's not the most important turning point. The most important turning point was, of course, 1964. So I think what happened in 1964 was not, of course, the decision to join the SLFP-led government is one thing, but the split in the Samaja party that took place as a result of that decision is much more important. And so what happened was that that completely resulted in the leaving of the party of the most bright group of young intellectuals that were associated with the party. So that's mean that usually when you are the political history. Recently, I was talking about I was invited to speak about at an event of launching of a book on Hegel. Right, so there I mention about my dissertation, my BA dissertation, which I wrote on the role of Rohana Vijayveera. So when I was looking for a theoretical approach to write that dissertation, I found a quote by Hegel, which I found in the E.H. Carr's well-known work, What is History, translated by Charita Vijayaratna of the LSSP. And so that was quote about the role of a political leadership, the role of a leader. The leader is the leader is a one who is capable of defining the spirit of the time, right? What is known in Dutch, in German as the Zeitgeist, right? So actually, it is intellectuals. It is intellectuals who grasp this Zeitgeist and express them transform it into a kind of discursive practice. So that's where intellectuals play a major role. I think, yeah, of course, I'm not challenging the central position that, the masses, the collective groups, that's what we understand as social classes. Masses play, but, even in the traditional, the conventional left politics, the Lenin also understood the central role played by, intellectuals. I mean, his idea of party, his party is mainly a party of intellectuals, right? In a broader definition. So, that's in that context. I think the important one of the important aspects of the evolution of left politics in Sri Lanka. So this split between those who had a close association with masses and the intellectuals, right? So that is exactly what happened in 1964, right? So those who left the party did not have a strong grip on the masses, and so you can easily understand it if you look at the election results after 1965. I think even someone like Bala Tampo, who had a kind of good base among urban working classes, did not perform well at elections, but they could articulate their ideas very well, right? So they had they had their theoretical stuff and everything, but they didn't have the association with the masses, and so the split between the mass base and the intellectual base proved to be very important in the decline of the left movement in Sri Lanka. So then the same thing happened in 1970s when the SLFP, at that point the LSSP took the wrong decision to expel this young group of intellectuals, and I don't know how many PhD holders in in NSSP Central Committee. That's quite a lot, right? And so the LSP lost this lifeblood, right? So this highly capable group of intellectuals. Yes, yeah. Even those who did not have PhDs like Suman Sirillian again. So they also top level intellectuals, right? Huh? Yeah, I think we identify you not as an intellectual but as an activist now. So that's why right? I use quite a traditional way of right. Anyhow, so if that connection existed, if that split did not take place, I think even decisions like the 1980 the strike decision would not have happened in the same way, right? So then they were completely detached from the masses, the rhythm of the sense of the pulse of the masses. So that's I think that's that perhaps the one of the points that this pamphlet raises, and so therefore so the point that I want to make is that it is so unfortunate that this this very creative group of intellectuals could not contribute to the mainstream political development in Sri Lanka. So I think so that's the difference between, let's say, at the time of independence and what happened after 1960s. So I think at the time of independence, so these the young radical intellectuals are very much part of the mainstream political discourse. So that these days I'm preparing myself. I have been asked to deliver the keynote speech at commemoration event to commemorate the Reverend Walpola Rahula, who is also a very important part of the intellectual landscape in at the time of independence, who had a very close association with the left movement, and so this so-called Vidyalankara monks, and so they played a intellectually very important and active and central role at that time. But afterwards, so these intellectuals and the masses began to move in two completely different directions. So I think that's what if we sort of want to celebrate the life of Kumar David, something that we can discuss is that how to address this gap and think about the rethink about the role of intellectuals, right? And so he has never been. I think this is important as to why he rejected the offer of Gamini Disanayaka to be a consultant of the Mahawali project, because he had other ideas. He thought that that's not where his contribution would be important, in this critical space, right? So unfortunately, and I also want to mention about this Nalinda Silva's side, very very important. Both are very important. Both Kumar and Nalinda Silva, I think they were very good friends as well. So they had. So they moved in a completely different paths. So I think I remember, how he was talking about Nalinda Silva, so in his lecture about quantum physics, and even Nalinda Silva moved in that direction. Ended up as an ultra nationalist intellectual who did lot of damage to a kind of progressive intellectual thinking in the Sri Lankan political landscape due to this split, right? So I think so that's this is not the time to discuss these things, but I think now actually we are in a complex political situation now, and actually whether you would share with me the same sentiment that there is a kind of left orientation in our political landscape, as we whether there may be diverse view on the political line of the NPP government and so on, but you cannot refuse the fact that it has a kind of leftward orientation. Then some people told me that it is. I think recently a friend from Netherlands, who is not a political activist, he said that it is interesting to notice that when the entire Europe is moving towards the right-wing politics, that the Sri Lanka is moving the other direction, right? So I think this is something that we need to contemplate on, and also I think that is so that is what we can kind of serious intellectual contemplation on this is needed. I think that's the best tribute that we can pay to this very creative intellectual giant in the history of left movement in Sri Lanka, Kumar David. Thank you very much.
දසුන්සේ 76 මම සමාජ පක්ෂයෙන් කැඩිලා සිරිතුංගලා වාම සමාජය ගොඩනගන කාලේ මම දැක්කා පෝස්ටරයක් අරවලා තියෙනවා ක්වීන්ස් එක ගාව. සම සමාජ නව නායකත්වයේ. මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් සම්මන්ත්‍රණයක් තිබුණා YMC. ඒ සම්මන්ත්‍රණයේදී තමයි කුමාර මම අදලා. ඒත් එකම ඒ සංවිධානයට බැඳිලා අපි පෝස්ටර් ගහනවා ඒ කාලේ. කුමාර ඉජිරි ෆැකල්ටි එකේ. කුමාර එනවා මට කියන පෝස්ටර් ටික හදලා අරගෙන ඉන්න කියලා. පාප බාල්දියත් එක්ක. යන ස්කූටර් එක. මම හිතන්නේ රෝහිණී හැදමු ස්කූටර් එකේ ඉන්නේ. එවිට අපි දෙන්න අතට විතර කොළඹට නුවර ටවුන් එකේ පෝස්ටර් ගහලා. දවසක් කියනවා පෝස්ටර් ගන්නකොට මම ජේ.ආර්.ට බැලලා කුණු හරපෙන් පෝස්ටර් දෙකක් තුනක් කරනවා නේ අපි අන්තිමට මේක ගහලා යන්න. කුමාර කැටියේ මම දෙහිම ඉඳගෙන ආවේ නෑ. ඒ කුමාර එහෙම ඉඳලා අර සිරිතුන් සාදර කිව්වා වගේ 80 වැඩ වර්ජනයේ වෙලාවේ නව සමාජ පක්ෂයේ මම හිතන්නේ පළවෙනි වැරද්ද සිදු කරගත්තා. මොකද වැඩ වර්ජන තීන්දුව බාහුවගත්තේ අතරම බොල්ෂෙවික් විප්ලවය කරන්න. ඒකෙන් ඒ අපි දේශපාලන මණ්ඩලයේ හිටියා ආචාර්යවරු කතිකාචාර්යවරු 5 දෙනෙක් හිටියා. කුමාරයෙක් කෙනෙක්, බාහු තව එක්කෙනෙක්, ක්‍රිස් සාන්දඩියාලිස්, සුමනි නලින්සි. මේ වැඩි දෙනෙක් හිටිය පෙරදින. ඒ ආශ්‍රය තමයි මමත් හැදුනේ. එනකොට මම පක්ෂේ පූර්ණ කාලීනී වුණා. මට මගේ පළවෙනි දේශපාලන ගුරුවරයා නලින් සිල්වා එතකොට. ඒ කියලා දුන්නේ චිලියේ වෙච්ච ඛේදවාචකයේ සම්බන්ධයෙන්. ඊපස්සේ 80 වැඩ වර්ගනේ ඊළඟ කාරණේ තමයි හිටපු සියලුම ආචාර්යවරු ඒ පරාජයත් එක්ක පක්ෂේ දාලා ගිහින්. බාහුහැර නලින් සිල්වා කෙලින්ම ජාතිකවාදයට තල්ලු වෙනවා. මොනයින් සිල්වා ඉස්සෙල්ලා මට මතකයි දේශනයක් කරවුවා ක්වොන්ටම් ෆිසික්ස් කියන්නේ. ඊට පස්සේ විශේෂයෙන්ම කාල් පොපර්ට එරෙහි. එයා කතා කරලා පස්සේ කාල් පොපර්ගේ අදහසම පස්සේ පිළිඅරගෙන සිංහල ජාතිවාදයට තල්ලු වෙලා ගියා. ඒ විශාල අර කවුද නිර්මල් කිව්වා වගේ. ඒ විශාල ඩැමේජ් එකක් කරනවා ඔමේ ව්‍යාපාරය. සිංහල ජාතිකවාදයේ මෑත කාලීන දාර්ශනිකය හැටියට මතුනේ නලින්සි. මේක තමයි ඊට පස්සේ කුමාර ගියාට පස්සේ අවුරුදු ගණනාවක් අපි අතර තිබ්බ සම්බන්ධය විඳලා ගියා. පස්සේ බාහුවෙන් කැඩලා වාසු වෙනම පක්ෂයක් හදාලා පස්සේ මම ඒගොල්ලොත් එක්ක සම්බන්ධ වුණා. කුමාර නැවත ලංකාවට ඇවිල්ලා එතන ඉන්නවා නැවත මට හම්බ වුණා. ඊට පස්සේ අපි අතර ගොඩක් කිට්ටු සම්බන්ධයක් තිබුණා. කුමාර ආපුවාම අපි ගෙදර එනවා. අපි කුමාරලා ගෙදර යනවා. කුමාරලා ගෙදර එහා ගෙදර හිටියේ අහිලන්ගේ තාත්තා. කුමාර එන්න ගිහලා නඩියක් ගාලා කතා කරගෙන ඉන්නවා. ඒ කාලේ තුල මගේ විශාල වශයෙන් ඉපැත්තක ගුරුවරයෙක් හිටියට ගොඩක් දේවල් මම ඉගෙන ගත්තා යාගේ. ඊට අමතරව යා විශාල මග පෙන්වීමක් කරා අපේ දේශපාලනේ. මට එක දෙයක් මතක් වුණා මම පෙරදිනේ ඉන්න කාලේ ඒ වෙනකොට සාමාන්‍ය පෙළ සමත් වෙලා උසස් පෙළ කරවුවා විතරයි. විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයන් ලකුණු කීපයක් මත දුන්නා. නමුත් දෙවෙනි වතාව මම ලියා ගන්න ඒවල සල්ලි තිබුණේ. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් බාහිර දාන රුපියල් 17යි 50ක් තිබුණා. කුමාරට දැනගන්නවත් බැන්න. ඔබ කිව්වනම් මම දෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ මම උසස් පෙළ ආයි පස්සේ කරලා බාහිර විභාග දාලා විභාග ගොඩ දාගත්තා. නමුත් පූර්ණ කාලික කැඩේ තමයි දිගට දේශපාලනේ. ඒ මෑත කාලේ මම හිතනවා කුමාර මේ යන අවුරුද්දකට ඉතින් ඉස්සෙල්ලා අවුරුද්දකට මාස 6කට ඉස්සෙල්ලා මම තමයි කිව්වේ ගෙදර නැගිටින්න බැරුව හිටියා. පස්සේ රෝහිණිය ඇවිල්ලා එක් කරන්න ගියා කියලා. ඒ අවසාන කාලේ අපි අතට සම්බන්ධයෙන් ටිකක් ඈත් වෙලා තිබුණා. ඒ අරෙන්නට කුමාර විශාල වශයෙන් සාමාන්‍ය පහළ පන්තියේ මිනිස්සුන් තමන්ගේ දැනුම තමන් පුළුවන් ආකාරයට ඔබ බෙදා දුන්නා. එයා ඉතාම දක්ෂ ගුරුවරයෙක්. මේ රටේ වාමාංශික ව්‍යාපාරයට විශාල දායකත්වයක් ලබා දුන්න ගුරුවරයෙක්. ඒ අනුව කුමාර විශාල කැපකිරීමක් කරා ඒ වෙනුවෙන්. එහෙම ඉහළ මට්ටමේ ඉන්න පුළුවන්කම තිබුණා. පුළුවන් හැම අවස්ථාවකම මේ සමාජය යහපත් සමාජයක් කර ගැනීම සඳහා කරන්න පුළුවන් උපරිම දේ කැපවීම කරලා කියන එක. තමයි බොම්සු.
කුමාර ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයත් එක්කලා මම හිතන්නේ මෙතන ඉන්න දේශපාලනය කරපු අයගෙන් මම හිතන්නේ සෑහෙන පස්සේ දේශපාලනය කරපු සහ දේශපාලන වික්‍රමයන් කීපයක් අපිට කරන්න පුළුවන් වුණා කුමාර ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයත් එක්කලා. මම දේශපාලනයට 90 එනකොට මම කෙලින්ම ගියේ සම සමාජ පක්ෂයට. ඒක සම සමාජ පක්ෂයේ කුමාර ඩේවිඩ් හිටියේ නැහැ. ඊට පස්සේ හැබැයි පොත තිබුණා. තරුණ ගොතුන්ගේ දේශපාලනේ ඔය පොත තිබුණා. ඊට පස්සේ විවිධ ප්‍රශ්න උඩ අපි සම සමාජ පක්ෂයෙන් වාසෝදරත් එක්කලා දෙවෙනි සැරේ ඉවත් වෙනකොට කුමාර ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයා ඒ ඇතිවෙච්ච ප්‍රයන්තවාදී වාමාංශික පෙරමුණට මුල් කාලේ සහාය දුන්නා. ඒ සහාය දීම උඩ බොහෝ දේවල් මම විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා විවෘත විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයේ මානව ශාස්ත්‍ර හා සමාජ විද්‍යාලයේ ශිෂ්‍ය සංඛ්‍යාව 10000 සෙන්ටර්ස් ඒ කාලේ ප්‍රධාන සෙන්ටර්ස් 4 තිබුණේ. පොඩි සෙන්ටර්ස් තිබුණා. එතකොට ඒ පීඨේ බලය අපි 94 ඉඳලා 2009 වෙනකන් අපිට එක දිගට අපගේ කණ්ඩායම අල්ලගෙන ඉන්න පුළුවන් වුණා. ඒ අල්ලගෙන ඉන්නකොට අර විටින් විට දීර්ඝ කාලීන ශිෂ්‍ය භාවයේ තහනම් කිරීම ආවහම ඒතර කැම්පස් එක විසින්ම අපිට කැම්පස් එක ඇතුලේ ඉන්න දේශපාලනය කරන්න පසුබිම හදලා දුන්නා. මේ කාලේදී මට මුලින්ම ඊළඟ කාරණාව කියන්න ඕනේ කුමාර ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයා සාමාන්‍යයෙන් කෙනෙක් එක්කලා කතා කරනකොට කුණුහරුප එකක් දෙකක් ආවට මාත් එක්කලා දේශපාලනය කරනකොට ගොඩාක් අඩුවෙන් තමයි කුණුහරුපාවේ සමහරට අපි අතර තිබිච්ච විශාල වයස් පරතරේ වෙන්න ඇති. ගොඩක් නොදන්න දේවල් මට අහගන්න පුළුවන් වුණා කුමාර ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයා. ඒ නොදන්න දේවල් එකක් තමයි අපි ප්‍රාන්තවාදී වාමංශික පෙරමුණේ පක්ෂ සම්මේලනය 2002 විතර අපි කම්කරු සෙවණේ තියෙනකොට ලංකාලෝක සහ කණ්ඩායමක් විසින් නම් කීපයක් ගහලා ඒගොල්ලෝ වෙනම කැම්පේන් එකක් පක්ෂ සම්මේලනය ඇතුලේ කරගෙන යනවා. ඒ පක්ෂ සම්මේලනය ඇතුලේ මම මේගොල්ලෝ මේ කියන්නේ වාස් සහෝදරයාගේ නමක් දාගෙන කැම්පේන් එක කරගෙන යනවා. මම කිව්වා මෙන්න මෙහෙම දෙයක් වෙනවා. ගණන් ගන්න එපා සහෝදරයා. ඕකේ විලේ ගොඩගෙනම නැහැ. ඒ කියන්නේ ඕක වාස් සහෝදරයාගේ වැඩක් නෙමෙයි. ඒ පක්ෂ සම්මේලනයේම ওই සහෝදරුන් දේශපාලනය කරන සහෝදරු දන්නවා ඇති පක්ෂ සම්මේලනයක දේශපාලන යෝජනාවක් 3/2 ඡන්දින් පරද්දන එක. ඒක එහෙම කරන්න පුළුවන් දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. 3/2 ඡන්දින් පරද්දන එක. ඒක කරා කුමාර ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයා. වාසුදේව නානක්කර සහෝදරයා ප්‍රින්ට් කරලා පොතක් විදිහට දේශපාලන යෝජනාව ඉදිරි කාලයේදී ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන යෝජනාව ඉදිරිපත් කරාම පිටු එකමාරක යෝජනාව කුමාර ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයා ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තිබුණා. ඊට පස්සේ සාකච්ඡා කීපකින් පස්සේ ඇතුළෙම තිබිච්ච සාකච්ඡා කීපකින් පස්සේ මම තීරණය කරා කුමාර ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයාත් එක්කලා එකතු වෙලා ඒ පිටු එකමාර දිනවන්න ඕනේ කියලා. ප්‍රින්ට් කරපු පොතක් තියෙනවා පිටු එකමාරක් තියෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ අපිට පුළුවන් වුණා විලේගොඩ සහෝදරයාත් අපේ පැත්තට ගන්න. ඡන්ද ප්‍රතිඵල අතෝස්සලා ඡන්ද දෙන්න තියෙන ඡන්ද ප්‍රතිඵල 3/2කට වඩා වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයකින් කුමාර ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයාගේ පිටු එකමාර දේශපාලන යෝජනාව දින්නා. හැබැයි මධ්‍යම කාරක සභාව තෝරනකොට කුමාර ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයයි මායි මධ්‍යම කාරක සභාවට ඇතුළු වුණාට එහෙම අපි මධ්‍යම කාරක සභාවට කණ්ඩායමක් සූදානම් කරලා දාලා එහෙම පුත් තිබුණේ නැහැ. ඊට පස්සේ ඇතිවෙච්ච දේශපාලන තත්ත්වයන් උඩදී තත්ත්වය සෑහෙන වෙනස් වෙලා ගියා. ඊළඟ කාරණාව අපේ પરම්පරාව අපිට පුළුවන් වුණා කුමාර ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයා නොදන්නා ගොඩක් දේවල් දැනගන්න. ඒ වලින් එකක් තමයි අවසන් කාලයේ LTT එකට මොකද වුනේ? ඒක මම දැනගත්තේ කුමාර ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයාගෙන්. ඇයි මෙච්චර කියන්නේ මම පිළිඅරගත්තා මේ දේශපාලන මතවාදය අනුව ජාතික ප්‍රශ්නයක් උඩ කරන සටනක් ඔය විදිහට කෝණ වෙන්න බෑ. මේ ප්‍රභාකරන් මැරෙන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා කුමාර් ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයා කිව්වේ ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ සප්ලයි එක ගානේ වැටෙනවා. නැව් ගිලෙනවා. ඒගොල්ලන්ට එන නැව් ගිලෙනවා. මේ තත්ත්වයේ තුල ඒගොල්ලන්ට දුෂ්කර සහ අසීරු කාලයකට මුණ දෙන්න වෙයි. කිව්වා වගේම ඊට කෙටි කාලයකට පස්සේ ප්‍රභාකරන්ට ඔය කියන සොරොව්ව වැහුවා අර මේක කතන්දර වලට ඉස්සෙල්ලා ඒ කියන දේවල් වුණා. ඊට අමතරව LTTගේ රේඩාර් පද්ධතිය සුනාමි වලින් විනාශ වීම ඔය කියන කාරණා දෙක ගැන අපි කවුරුත් හිතපු නැති දේවල් කුමාර් ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයා කිව්වා. ඇත්තටම ඉතින් මට කියන්න තියෙන්නේ කුමාර් ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයා සිටිය යුතුයම මොහොතේ තමයි කුමාර් ඩේවිඩ් සහෝදරයා අපෙන් වෙන්නේ කියන දේ තමයි මට කියන්නේ. බොහොම ස්තුතියි.
Left front, Democrat left front of Vasudeva Nanayakkara, and he was saying how Kumar's, first of all, he was fortunate enough to meet Kumar at a later stage when his use of bad language was reduced. He said he never had any bad language, heard any bad language from him, or he kept his ears shut, I don't know. Then the second thing is how well he explained things and how he organized politics. And his one of his great achievements was he was opposed to this Vasudeva's political resolution at their meeting. And I think this was the time when Vasu was getting closer to Mahinda. He put an alternate resolution, and that alternate resolution, which he says he thinks has never happened anywhere, the alternate resolution won the majority with a majority of 2/3. So much for Vasudeva's resolution. But unfortunately, they had not organized. This was but they did promptly. They had not organized a group who could take over. So ultimately, only he and Kumar David entered the Politburo of the left front. And after a short time, they had to leave the place. They could have organized better. They would have been able to control the party. Thank you, Dinesh.
Except that I can't remember exactly when, but I certainly remember it was at Ajit Samarnayaka's funeral that Vijay cornered me and told me that both Rajan and Kumar would like to write for the Sunday Island, and neither of them would want payment for it. Now, even at that time, Upali newspapers was quite cash-strapped, and getting quality contributions from people like Rajan and Kumar was a big deal, and certainly during the period of my editorship of that paper, they have contributed immensely to keep the tone of what we published up to a very high level. Also, it was a strange coincidence that Vigneswaran mentioned that in this room there were about 4 or 5 of us who were in the same class at Royal Prep and Royal College. That was Vicky, then Sivasekaran, myself, Chris Ratnayaka. I think Kumar was born perhaps a year earlier than us, and unfortunately I only got to know him after he started writing for the paper, but we used to meet often with mutual friends, Vijay Kumar, whom Kumar would tease mercilessly, often alleging that he attempted to commit suicide when his wife's family was opposing his marriage, and that very unfortunately he stopped him from doing so. Of course the language, very often he would use words in his column where he would say, I hope I can get this past my editor, in parenthesis, and he was altogether superb company in anywhere, and I would think that in my long experience as a newspaper editor, I think that Carlo Fonseca and Kumar were about the two people whom I have encountered who were very, very well read. Kumar was, quite apart from being a very competent academic and an electrical engineer with several attainments, he could also quote Shakespeare. Now I was surprised to hear that, I wasn't surprised to hear that he was an atheist, but he could quote from the Bible. And he had a very strong work ethic. He never ducked, even when he was ill, from writing his column. And then we heard Rohini say here that sometimes he would work until midnight to keep a deadline. So I have lots of fond memories of him, and but I certainly learned a lot today with all his political comrades and everybody else who spoke. He was truly an extraordinary man who it was my great good fortune to have been able to know and associate with. Thank you very much.
He was my teacher in 1970s. I can't remember whether he taught me electrical engineering or Marxism, but anyway, he was a teacher. And I also remember in 1970, there was the election, 70s, no? We went canvassing to Peradeniya. Peradeniya is where faculties at Peradeniya. Peradeniya is a town, and also he had the wisdom to keep a chap at the faculty, electrical engineering department, with his car to see whether there's any trouble in Peradeniya to come and pick us up. I still remember that. I don't want to mention who kept the car there. Then, of course, my finals, I think I crashed in electrical engineering. I could not complete my electrical engineering paper. He was very concerned about it. He is the teacher of electrical engineering. Then I had to seek a job, awaiting results. He gave such a nice letter to the CTV chairman, and immediately I got my first job was at the CTV when Anil Mudasinghe was chairman. Then you can see the connection. Anil was chairman, and the minister was Leslie. Yeah, okay, right. Anyway, let's leave it at that. Then other personal connection goes beyond Kumar. Kumar, 70, 30, about 55 years. He must have added another 25 years to that. To Mr. Rohini. Rohini and I, we were attending the same school in all of it here, St. Bernard's Convent. I had 6 sisters and I had to go with them to the convent. My first schooling was in convent and Rohini was one of the students. I knew her, that means some 20 years before I knew Kumar. Personal recollection. Okay? Regarding politics and your philosophy, I have very little to say, but when on his 70th, was it 70th felicitation? We had a felicitation, 75th or 70th? 70th, I think. Yeah. 70, okay, whatever it is. I was asked to write a paper, present a paper. It was titled Social Metabolism. So I thought I'll get a bit close to socialism because it is something that Marx had talked about. No? So then, unfortunately for me, Kumar was in the audience, of course, and he was seated next to my dean at that time, Professor Sri Ananda. I think some of you know Sri Ananda. So at the end of my presentation, I walked up to Professor Sri Ananda and asked, how did it go? He said, your friend Kumar said he didn't understand a single word of what you said. So I was really taken. So I asked, she was my former dean, what do you say? He said, I understood every little word, every word you said. So I don't know about Kumar's intellect must be so superior that he can't get me, whereas they got it. Okay. About sense of humor, I don't want to say much about it, but without using the words he used, once Professor Ananda and I went to his house at Dehiwala, I don't know how to say this. He told Sri Ananda, Sri, can you find me a boy to help me? So Sri Ananda asked, what help you want? The Valta Kadayarindai Rata. He didn't say that. He didn't say. So Sri Ananda is such a decent guy, you know him. 4-letter words, I don't think he even knows 4-letter words. He didn't know where to look. Okay. Another little thing I wanted to, I don't know if it's a coincidence or it is happening again and again. Now you were talking about Bahu, Kumar, Chris Rodrigo, who else? She's living. Yeah. Now, out of the lot, it might be a coincidence that Chris Rodrigo's wife came and stayed with my flat after his death. And next, Rohini was to come and stay. So I am very concerned who will be the next wife who is going to come and stay in my flat. Okay, that's it.
For various reasons, which I won't go into now, I'll do the best I can. My first encounter, I need to say this for the record, my first encounter with Kumar was 55 years ago when I was an undergraduate at Peradeniya, and through some chaotic misunderstanding, I was reported by a post office clerk in Kandy that I'm a Che Guevarist, because I had, believe me, I had long hair up to my shoulders and I had a flowing beard which was black at the time. So I had gone to the post office to get a call to the university because at that time in 71 April you had to get a call only from the police station or from the post office. No one else could give you a call. So I was at Leon's Cafe in the morning. I won't tell you what I was doing. We were having something to eat, and then I went down to the post office. And my father had been postmaster there before, so I could walk into the post office and people would not stop me from doing that because some of my father's colleagues were then still at the post office. So there was Mr. Ulapane, who was then the postmaster. I walked up to his desk and I said, I need a call to Peradeniya. So he said, yeah, go to the counter and get the call. That gentleman there will help you. So I'm now inside the post office and I walk past the postmaster's desk to the counter clerk. And as soon as I reached him and I asked him for a call to Peradeniya, he said, what damn calls for you idiots? You all are the cause of all that is happening in this country today, and if not for you, this country would be a much better place. So I looked at him straight in the face and I said, excuse me, from Monday to Friday, I get enough lectures, and I am not about to listen to a lecture from you. So why don't you do what you have to do? Either tell me you can give me the call or you cannot. That is your duty, nothing else. He promptly picked up the phone and called the police station and said there was an insurgent inside the post office. And I actually, initially I thought this was just a joke. But suddenly all the postal staff, employees and clerks and peons, they surrounded me and I was treated as if though I was a common criminal. And I said, listen, I'm not guilty of anything, I'm not going to run away, so you don't have to surround me in the way you're doing. But they still kept me there thinking I'll run out of the post office and escape. And lo and behold, 10 minutes later, I see a grey-haired police inspector coming with a constable next to him with a gun in hand. And they kept the gun behind my spine, got me like in these cowboy films. I had to put my hands up and walk out of the post office, being taken as if though I was an insurgent. So now I knew enough from my undergraduate friends that one of the first things that a JVP suspect did, if he was caught, was to keep quiet because he didn't want to let his colleagues down. I therefore remembered that well enough to start talking as much as I could, right? So from the post office, you pass the station and go that road towards the police station, till I came to the candy market. I kept on telling him, look, you're making a huge mistake. You know, you can call my dean, Professor Cuthbert Amarasinghe. He will know who I am. Ashley Halpe, who's the director of student welfare, will know who I am. And you can easily know what my background is. So when we reached the market, the inspector turned around and told me, you open your mouth one more time, we are going to shoot you through your mouth, right? And that was enough for me to give it silent. And so now we pass the clock tower and we go to the police station. But somehow I think the inspector gave me the benefit of the doubt, because he didn't take me inside to the police station itself, but asked me to stay outside. And I could hear people getting hammered, you know, getting tortured because they were shouting and there were screams. At that point, as fate would have it, who comes down and gets out of the entrance to the that section of the police station but Kumar David. So I suspect that since the LSSP was part of the government of the time, in the United Front government, he might have been helping to coordinate the security arrangements in that area. So he looked at me, and you know how he's fond of four-letter words. He used them and asked me what I was doing there. So I said, I'm not doing anything here, these idiots brought me here. So then he said, okay, wait a minute, and he went upstairs. I don't know who he spoke to, must have been Shanmugam, who was the ASP at the time, I think. And he came down and told me, for God's sake, get the hell out of here. Go back to where you came from. Don't stay here for more than 5 minutes. So I beat a hasty retreat and I went back. So that's my first encounter with Kumar, which I have recollected many a time when Manik and Tanki and Rajan and all of us, Banchi sometimes, when we have met and had few drinks and dinner, I have repeated this story to Kumar several times. Anyway, after Peradeniya, my encounter with Kumar was thanks to Seelan Kadirkama. Somebody mentioned that they were neighbors, and Seelan and I were close friends. So he told me, Kumar is my neighbor, why don't you come? We can have a drink or two and a chat about old times. So I went there, and that was my reconnection with Kumar, which then was followed by various sessions at the Kinross Club, where we solved all the problems, not only of Sri Lanka, but of the whole world, with Seelan Kadirkama. Sometimes Marshall used to join, and all of us had great fun. The most recent times, of course, were regular get-togethers whenever he came to Colombo. And after his 80th birthday, I think we had a couple of dinners, one at Manik's place and the other I hosted him at the Tamil Union. And he said, I will come, but you will have to allow me to bring my man Friday. And so he gave me his telephone number. This is the chap who was helping him, and he was his tuk-tuk driver. And so I said, no, that's not a problem at all. And so he brought this chap. And what I noticed then surprised me. I had never seen Kumar feeble in his life. And for the first time I saw this tuk-tuk driver, his man Friday, holding him by the hand and climbing the stairs up to where we were having dinner. And that kind of took me by surprise. Then I knew that he had some kind of health issue, and I was therefore concerned about him. And not long after, of course, he left us. But I must also say in passing, I'm not going to repeat, but his emails to me were a treat. And not only was he caustic and insulting when he wanted to be, but the last sentence was always something that he was fond of doing, to taking the mickey out of you in a kind of very strange manner, which I cannot go public with now, but those of my friends like Tanki and Manik and Rajan and crowd and even Gamini, I think you know what he used to say very frequently. Anyway, thanks Kumar.
Vijay Kumar for sharing this session, and thanks for everyone for coming today. And Marshall introduced us. So we have covered different parts of Kumar's life over a long time. There is Professor Sivasegaran might Remember, there is a Bharati's line in the Vali in that is along the long road. I cannot remember what we are leaving behind, but I think today we practically covered the entire trajectory of Kumar's life and remembered quite a few things. Just a few things to touch on here in this hall. Kumar, Sinan Kadargama, Paul Kaspers and Marshall, we have organized several seminars, mainly to honor and remember people, Hector Abhyavardhana, Paul Kaspers, Kumar David. As I wrote, when Kumar died, one by one, lights go out. There are still a few lights left from Peradeniya. Dr. Sivasegaram, Dr. Vigneswaran, Dr. Galapati. They were all inspirations to us, and as one of the great things about them is that while they were interested in politics as students, the most remarkable thing, at least to me, is the fact the discipline they had to focus on their studies and do better than anybody else who was not at all interested in politics, which is quite remarkable. And that's an achievement that we can remember and maybe take lessons from. I will not go, everything has been covered. I'll just point to two articles here. The one that Kumar wrote on Bahu, and the other one he wrote, I consider, I told Kumar, one was the political side, the other one was the engineering side, where he recalls the students who came in the year after him, Harsha Sirisena, Dr. Sivasegaran, Dr. Vigneswaran, Pramila Sivaprakasa Pillai, and he gives an overview of the two halves of his life. On the engineering side, the students who were at his time and with whom he had, who were his colleagues and who have mutually inspired each other. And they are real talents. Those of us who have been fortunate to live in different parts of the country, we can easily relate to what we find here in this group. And the other part was, of course, Bahu's role in the left movement and the whole covering of that. So those are two interesting pieces. If you read this book, the collection, which was Kumar's idea, you will realize what I am referring to. And the other one, of course, the second half of our lives, Rajpal is here. Thank you for coming. Kumar and I first started writing in mainstream newspapers when Rajpal was editor of Sunday Observer. Rohan Edrisinghe called us and told him Rajpal is now the editor, so we started with him, and then at one point I think all three of us were writing, Bahu, David and myself. And then things changed, and then as Manik recalled, Vijay Kumar introduced me and Kumar to...
You went to some other papers, Ceylon Times
No.
now?
No. Maybe for a short time, but Manik. And then, of course, we were all admirers of Colvin, so there was no problem in joining Manik. And it has been almost 20 years nearly. We have been writing weekly, and as Manik said, I think Kumar was again the same discipline, because I would be the last person to send my script to Manik, right? And Kumar would have been the first person to send his script. So that's the difference between us in terms of timing and discipline. So it has been, and again in this meeting today, I don't see Chris. Personally, I have dealt with everyone who is here, and as often you have mentioned, Vijay Kumar, Manik, Chris, Sivasegaram and Vigneswaran, they were all classmates 1 year after Kumar, and I have known them in different aspects of my own career and life. Chris and I worked for a few years quite intensely in the Hanfana housing scheme, where Chris was the electrical engineering consultant, I was the resident project manager, with Suren Wickramasinghe was the main architect for the project. And sorry? Yes. And And Ramadas, who was 1 year after me, and then he made a name for himself in the IT industry in Sri Lanka. I did not know that Marshall, Nayani and Ramadas, and they were all in the same firm. But so, even though there are not many young people here, that's a fact, but it's a good occasion to have some nostalgia and to have the occasion to recall over what we have gone through. And it's not always I've been writing too many obituaries in the last few years, so I don't want to end on that note, but then it's nice to catch up with everyone who has meant more than something to you in life, and then remember Kumar all together, and then in his name we can go and have some lunch now. Okay? Thank you. Ah, yes, yeah, you take over. Thank you.